Show is on banking, savings, debt, and credit. We have two guests on. In fact, Mr. Producer, make sure that's in the title of the recording, okay? Thank you, sir. Our first guest is coming to us from Columbia, South Carolina. I have known Marcia Pierce almost my entire life. Marcia has had the privilege of working in a community relations department as at a South Carolina credit union, where she focuses on helping individuals better understand and manage their finances. With a degree in education, she has always been passionate about empowering others through learning. Before joining the credit union, she spent several years as a lobbyist working alongside insurance and financial planners, which gave her a unique insight into the world of personal finance, as well as the importance of informed decision making when it comes to money matters, which is what we've been talking about the past few weeks, guys. Now our mission is to bring that expertise directly to the consumer through educational presentations like today's. Let's get started so that you feel more confident in your financial decisions. Before we get started, we are going to also introduce Scott Schneider. And Scott is a business banker for Dollar Bank here in Lake County. He's got an extensive background and experience in banking, which includes retail, that's personal, that's you and me, folks, and business banking. Having been in banking over 24 years and fortunate enough to represent Dollar Bank for the last 12. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Marcia, glad to have you. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be there.
You're absolutely a lovely human being, and you know I love you for that.
Oh, thank you. It's mutual.
Thank you. Hey, so one thing I want to do is I'm going to start with you, Marcia.
Sure.
What's the difference? Let's start out, before we go there, let's start out. What's the difference between a regular bank, quote unquote, and a credit union?
Well, there are benefits to both. As Scott will certainly be able to tell you when he has the opportunity, banks are essential, just as important as a credit union. The difference is that credit unions are nonprofit. So the focus of the credit union is to return the profit to their, what they call members, which would be customers, in the form of reduced loan rates and higher interest on investments, savings, and any documents any financial instruments that would gain additional income.
Okay, anything to add to that, Scott?
Excuse me. A Dollar Bank is very similar to a credit union in the fact that we're a mutual bank and we're owned by our depositors. Where the difference is we are we're not publicly traded, but we are for profit. So similar to what the credit unions do, because we're owned by our depositors, we gear our products and services for their benefit as well as ours, but we're always looking to maximize their savings rate and get them the best rate possible on their loans.
Okay, so are there banks that are not publicly owned or owned by the members and for profit as well?
Most of the banks out there right now, like your other banks, big banks, are typically publicly traded. So they have to answer to Wall Street. So every quarter they have a quarterly earnings report. Then they hop on a conference call. And then, one of the dangers with that is if the bank's not performing, what's the first thing that they look at? They look at cutting. Mm-hmm. So we don't answer to Wall Street, which is a great benefit of working at Dollar Bank and being Dollar Bank's client.
Okay, cool. All my life, Marcia, I've dealt with the typical bank, the local banks, the national banks. Actually, I've got an account with a national bank right now. Does banking with a credit union feel any different to the consumer when you compare it to like a national bank, like a Citibank, PNC, any of those guys?
Well, I can only speak based on comments I have received from the members of our credit union. And what they routinely say to me is that they are very comfortable dealing with us because they feel they get hands-on. most of our members come into our branches. We have 13 branches, and they love to come in. That is now trending more toward online, but when they have something of importance, they still come in, and they like that relationship that they've developed over the years because we actually call them by name, their first name only, when they enter our credit union. So we acknowledge them as a person, not just a customer. They're important to us, and we try to meet all of their needs and acknowledge them as an individual.
That's excellent. Scott, that's a customer service thing. I've been at a dollar bank, and they've always greeted me before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We similar to Marsh's Credit Union, we get a lot of walk-in traffic as well, and it's all about relationship in this business. Whether you're retail, business banking, mortgage, it's all about connecting with the customer, providing them with quality customer service, having great products, and then the follow-up in the future to help with whether they have kids coming up, they're raising young kids. We hook them up with savings accounts, and then we start introduce checking accounts that their parents are on, and then we like to keep everything in the family. And so when you have a first generation, we're usually getting a second and third too.
Okay, so I got a question. Let me ask you this. Why is it important to establish a good relationship with your bank, Scott?
Well, if you come to us for a loan, for example, Steve, and say you have pretty good credit, and you have, but you have some debt out there, and you're looking to get a loan to maybe, consolidate some debt, or maybe even more. Maybe you're looking for a car loan, and when it comes down to looking at if we're going to make a decision to approve you or not, we look at the relationship you have with us. And if you have a checking account, a savings account, you already have a loan history with us that is paid as agreed, then that allows us to take a look at that relationship and more often than not puts that customer over the top for getting approved for that loan.
And it sounds like a similar thing for you, Marcia. Is that how it works with the credit union? I know you can't speak for them nationwide, but your credit union in South Carolina.
Oh, yes, and they're primarily the same nationwide as well. But Scott made a good point. It's the personal relationship that makes the difference. In our case, many of our members are interested in their credit score and how to establish good credit. And that's not something they're comfortable doing online. They need that personal contact to learn the basics of that. And then when they routinely come in, we encourage them. How are you doing? Is the score going up? Have you opened another credit card? We talk to them about the essentials of good credit and what they need to do. Those are a lot of the areas of concern that we deal with on a daily basis.
All right. Well, I do want to come back and revisit that later because I want to start with some more basics as well. But that's a very, very good point, and we are going to talk about credit cards and loans and that sort of thing. But, the one question I want to get to first is, before we're going to that credit, before we're going for those loans, before we're looking to do those mortgages or whatever your associations do, your institutions do, I think we need to open a checking account first, right, Marcia? So we need to develop that relationship,
Yes.
right? So
Yes, absolutely.
What am I looking for in a checking account? And let me throw this one to Scott first.
First and foremost, the checking account should be free. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. And then you're looking at, what kind of ancillary services are with that account, including how good the online banking is, and if they have an app, to just, we're all technology. It's a technologic world now. So having an app where they can have access to that right away is essential. And so that's probably, the main areas of when opening up a checking account that you look for: free, Online banking, how good is it to be able to transfer money between checking and savings, and then an app where you can, if you get a check, you can take a picture of it and remote deposit that in.
What else you got, Marcia?
Well, I would also be interested in the rate of interest that they're going to pay on my savings account, and if it's compounded daily. How is that rate compounded, and what is the rate? And the other thing, I was shocked to find out that several online bank options don't offer FDIC insurance. They're not insured.
Yeah, you want your money insured. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you insured? I wasn't aware of that. I think that Scott covered most everything else that comes to mind. No overdraft fees. That's another thing I would look for.
Okay. So,
and of course, if you're under 18, if there's anybody that's under 18, they must have the signature of a parent or guardian.
right, I think that's universal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the 18th birthday, they can go into the financial institution with proof of age and say, okay, I want to be solo now, and they can do that. But under 18, they have to have the signature.
Well, we've already got three people backing up with questions. Before we get there, guys, we're going to hit that in a second. Marcia, would you please explain interest on my savings account compounding daily versus what? What is that explanation for that? What does that mean?
Well, compound interest, the best way I can describe it would be if you made a snowball and you started at the top of the hill and it starts rolling down the hill. As it goes down, it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And that's what compound interest does. It gets bigger from the initial investment as it grows. So the more you put in, the bigger the snowball gets. And it continues to grow and get bigger until you have enough to make a whole frosty snowman.
That's funny. So our first question here is from Stephen Macy, and I'm gonna pop this one over to Scott first. Lakeland, or the Marcia, that's the school we're broadcasting from. Lakeland here has a credit union, and his question is, he's got a part-time job working at a restaurant. Would you guys recommend the credit union here at the college, or should they open an account at a bigger bank?
That's a good question.
I'll take.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Scott paused, and his eyes rolled back in his head for a brief second.
Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah. That's like saying, should we drink the arsenic or not? I think that you should be comfortable wherever you choose to do your banking. So decide on the areas that are important to you. If you want to do mostly online and you never expect that you're going to ever go into a branch, well, then maybe you'd want to narrow your search. I think it would all depend on your needs. Scott, can you add anything?
Well, I'll throw out there are several banks that are online only, such as Chime. Working my retail job, working my fun job,
right.
I have people coming in with a Chime card not infrequently. So there are those big. You're right. Some people don't need a branch.
I would say, it also depends on if you're getting a debit card with that credit union, and if there's fees for ATM usage outside of the credit union network. That's so. I guess that's another thing to add on. We're looking for a checking account with the whole fee situation. So if like Marcia said, if it's a good fit and you got a good relationship, roll with it. But if you go over to Dollar Bank in Menor and try to pull money out of a machine and they hit you up for a fee, then it may be time to look for another place to bank.
Yeah. So this person's name is Anonymous. No, it's an anonymous question. Wait, so does that mean credit unions are more for the people instead of corporate elites?
Well,
I just
we like all.
read them as they come in, Marcia. I can't do anything about that.
We like them all. Credit unions primarily address a very designated segment of society. For an example, our credit union was established initially for teachers. Now, we have grown far beyond those limitations, but our core values still relate to the needs of teachers, which is kind of universal. They want checking, they want savings, they want investment, they want education, they want the benefits that are unique for their needs. And I'm thinking if you have, Lakeland has a credit union, that might be a very good place to start, or at least investigate, as opposed to another local bank, to see what the differences are. I would go to visit each, see how you feel walking in there. Do you want a long-standing relationship with that institution? Ask them questions. Are you comfortable? It's your money.
And I know
So you want to.
here in Mentor, we've got, I believe, a firefighters credit union, and I'm not wondering if the Lakeland Credit Union caters or is kind of modeled around the students' needs the most.
Well, the local credit union here is Cardinal. They have a branch downstairs. Well, not a
Oh,
branch,
it's
but
just
they
a
have
branch downstairs, so
yeah,
it's not
like-
Lakeland Credit Union.
No,
it's
it's
a Cardinal.
Cardinal.
Thank you, Mr. Producer.
You're welcome.
So,
Oh,
Well, I think if any of my colleagues are listening to this and they heard corporate elite, they would probably be laughing in their, in their shoes right now, because we don't consider ourselves corporate elite people. We're out there grinding with the daily people, helping them. In my department in business banking, I like to be there for my client, help them grow their business and increase their profits. So I think it goes back to what Marcia was saying with core values.
all right, excellent. And I'm going to pop this one over to Chris. Scott, sorry.
That's okay.
Chris is texting in. That's why I called your name Chris. So I'm going to pop this one over to you. This is Chris. I've been thinking about getting into banking after college, but have no idea where to start. What's the best way to break into the industry? Also, are credit unions a good option for internships, or should I aim for a bigger bank? And thanks.
Banking is
Again, his eyes rolled back in his head just a spit.
that's kind of how I started. When I was done with school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So one of my friends got into banking, and I got into banking and started off as a teller. Went to personal banker. All the doors open after college for that. If you have a college degree and you start doing your job well, you can move up the ladder rather quickly. Banks and credit unions appreciate people that show up to work on time, have a good work ethic, are good with their clients, and provide great follow-up for their clients as well.
Excellent. And I've got one more question, and I'm not sure which one of you wants to take this, so jump in. This isn't a question that I had considered before. Steve, this is, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Panek.
Panek.
I live very close to college. I am a Thai citizen. Should I open an account locally or keep the bank in Thailand? I plan on living around Lakeland Community College for the next 2 years. Why don't you jump in?
I guess, what are your plans after 2 years? Are you moving back to Thailand, or are you staying in Ohio locally? If you're staying locally, I would open up an account, locally. If you're going back to Thailand and you can transact business, I don't know if you need to do that.
Okay.
You mind if I jump in here real quick? I have, not to interrupt, but I've had a few Thai students.
Yeah, but you're going to interrupt
I am
anyway,
going to
Mr.
interrupt,
Producer,
yes,
because you have the control board.
I do have the control board. I'll cut you off. But so I've actually, Scott, I've actually met a few. I used to go to Andrews Osborne Academy. It's where I went to high school, and I've met a few Thai students, and it seems to be not just a problem for Thai students, but also for Spanish students and other European.
Any international
yes,
student.
any
yeah.
international students, where they have a hard time with their bank from where they from their home country is. especially in Willoughby, they don't know how to withdraw their money, and a lot of them use proxy apps like Cash App, and they'll use the Cash App that can withdraw at local not Walmart but Circle K. So, and I've had a lot of them ask, should I open the account just to close it? So I think the problem is not necessarily whether or not it does matter whether or not he's going to stay, but I would assuming Panik, I don't know if you're staying or not, but I would assume that the problem is just the readiness and availability of money, especially as a college student.
What do you got, Marcia? You sound like you've got some thoughts.
Yes, I have done a presentation to the International School at the University of South Carolina. And following that, I had several of those students contact me and ask me to work with them in establishing the relationship so that the funds that they're earning in the United States could be sent home to their families in other countries. Many of them help support their families. So there was the conversion rate, there was the transfer time. There were so many aspects that I had never even thought about really until they approached me, that we were able to work through with them so that it was easily transferred and the family had access to it. And that involved us as a credit union working with a financial institution in their country to work out the particulars so the transfers would go smoothly and carefully. There were a few glitches in the beginning. I have to admit to that. There were a few countries that weren't as easy to deal with, but we were able to work them through. So it is possible. It's not as easy as a national transaction from state to state, but it certainly can be done. And Scott may know something better that would be more advantageous than what we were able to offer. I don't know.
I wish I could say I do. I'm a little bit removed from the retail side, as I've been in business banking for a little bit. So, but I'm sure that we have the capability to assist with that.
No, in the internet age, everything is wire transfer now. So
yeah.
But I would think if it was me, just with ease of, if I'm going to be working, if I'm on a student visa and I'm going to be working, getting direct deposit into my own local account, accessing money with my local debit card, for me, it seems like it would be easier to have something local. So let's, we've started kind of banking. We started talking about checking accounts here, but, this is on banking, savings, debt, and credit. So let's start moving towards the savings side of it, folks. So, Marcia, what's the difference? One of the things we were talking about before is an emergency savings account and a regular savings account. What's the difference?
Well, emergencies happen whether we want them to or not.
It's not a matter of if your car is going to fail. It's a matter of when your car is going to break.
Exactly. And it always happens at the most inopportune time. So I advocate that people have an emergency savings account that would consist of at least 6 months of expenses. And you tuck that money away and you let it sit and you let it earn interest. Now, the difference between an emergency savings account and a plain old vanilla savings account is that the savings account that's plain old vanilla is helping you build toward a variety of things. It could be for retirement, it could be for vacation, it could be for an upcoming event or purchasing a vehicle or a multitude of other things. The emergency account should be reserved only for emergencies, and when they occur, you've got the money.
See, that's
now
kinda,
we allow people, and I think that many institutions do this. We allow people to actually name their savings account. So if I'm a student and I want to go on spring break, I could name my savings account Spring Break. And I could have another savings account that would be books, saving towards books for next year or whatever it might be. And when you name the accounts, it seems like it's a little easier to save because you've got that focus on what the end goal is, at least for me.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, that's phenomenal. My wife and I have 3 different accounts at the same bank. They're all linked together in the app, and we are able to rename our accounts. So we have one we call our spending account. That's tied to our checks and our debit card. That's where we pay all our regular transactions. We have a second one we call our reserve account, and that's where we are reserving money to save up for vacation or to save up for covering a tax bill, something like that. Or we want to do a renovation on the house. And then we have a third one we call save, but that is where we keep our emergency fund, and we don't touch that. Scott, what do you have thrown in?
Steve, I pegged you for like a spring break kind of account kind of guy.
Absolutely. Not the Christmas club, but the spring break guy.
You know it, man. Hey, January Nicaragua, here we come.
Right. Well, to piggyback off,
I will be. I'll be in Nicaragua in January.
Piggyback off what Marcia said, absolutely. I mean, at Dollar Bank, we actually have our branch managers offer financial wellness where they'll go out to a school or a business and they'll run a class on that kind of stuff that Marcia was just talking about. Create an emergency fund is the number one way to help out with, as Steve was alluding to, car repairs, home repairs. And for college kids, when you get a job that offers medical insurance, you're still going to have a copay and a deductible. So that's where that comes in. You might have a $2,000 deductible. All of a sudden, you slip on ice, you break a leg, you go to the doctors, and you have to get an operation. You're going to be on the hook for some money. So that's where that emergency savings account comes in.
Yeah. And as a financial coach, which I don't know, I introduced that on my very first show. I've mentioned that in a few other shows. But as a financial coach, I explain to people what is an emergency fund. And you really, really have to determine your wants versus your needs. So your emergency fund is covering your housing. That's your rent or your mortgage. Then we cover your utilities, and that includes your cell phone, your electric, your water, whatever heat is, whatever you've got to pay. The other one is food, and when I talk food, I'm talking about food you prepare at home. If you are on the emergency fund and you're tapping into it, you have no business being in a restaurant unless you're working there. And you got to grocery shop and you got to take the time. Sometimes it's inconvenient, but man, with the advent of the internet, learning how to cook is so easy, and there's so many simple recipes. Maybe I'll do a show on cooking and give out some recipes, huh? And the last one is transportation. That's whether you've got a car and you've got to cover your insurance if you're paying monthly. Remember that. You've got to cover gas. You've got to put money aside for repairs because you're going to need an oil change. And if you don't have a vehicle like that, it's saving up money and putting transportation money for a bus pass in your emergency fund. So those are the 4 main categories for your emergency fund: your nails, your hair, your smokes, your Red Bulls. That is not a need. I'm sorry, kiddos. That's a want. So you've got to put in that emergency fund the stuff you truly need to make it. So we got a question coming in from Anonymous again, and I'm going to get there in just a bit. We're going to get there after a break. We're taking a break in about 8 minutes, so we'll cover that after the break, okay? So sit tight. Don't go nowhere. But having an emergency fund is so important, and having a savings account. Retirement savings. Since we're talking about savings, let's cover this kind of real high level. What Scott, do you guys do for retirement savings, IRAs, investments? What is out there?
Well, first and foremost, I would recommend that when you graduate college and get a job and that your employer offers a 401k, max out what they match. Max it out until they match you.
Explain that.
So if you contribute, if your employer will contribute 1% for the first 3%, if you put in 3%, they're going to match you 3%. So that's 6% of your salary,
So if you're making $1,000 a month, and they are willing to match 3%. That means you contribute $300 to your IRA. They will give you an additional $300 for free. That's just
Correct.
part of your compensation package,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay,
So
good.
you're saying it's free money.
It is free money. Yeah, and you know, you would be not smart to not take advantage of it.
I'd be remiss not to do that.
Go away, Mr. Producer.
Yeah, and then there's other things that banks and credit unions can offer, such as savings accounts and CDs. You know, and then
What's a CD?
a CD is a certificate of deposit where you put some money on deposit for a certain time frame, and they typically pay you a higher interest rate. We pay you a higher interest rate, but you can't touch those funds until it matures.
So that's 3, 6 months, 12 months, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes there's specials out there with a little bit of a higher rate. It's money that you don't want, you don't have a need or a want for. You just park it away, and then it just makes money for you.
Did you just say not have a want for money? Never mind. Moving on. Marcia, what do you got?
Oh, money is a want. Yes, Scott made a very good point about the 401k. It'd be like if you were walking down the street and somebody had $300 in their hand and they said, "Here, take it, it's yours," and you said, "Oh no, I don't want it." That's essentially what you're doing if you don't take advantage of that match with the 401k.
Absolutely.
It's the greatest deal out there.
All right.
Now, the other thing I noticed about the 401k, many employers will not make it available to new employees until they've been on the payroll for 90 days. And that makes sense. They don't want to get all involved in it unless they know the employee's going to stay.
Let me
But the
break in here.
catch is-
Let me break in here. Even before some of the, because again, I was a nurse working in patient care in some of the hospitals I worked for. They didn't start contributing until we hit that 90-day mark, but I still had to work there for 2 years before they'd let me keep it. I had to be vested in that account.
Oh, yeah, they have different vesting schedules. Absolutely. Everybody has it depends on their vesting schedule and who is really underwriting the 401k. But I do want to make your listeners aware that it's unlikely that your HR department is going to come to you after 90 days and say, "Hey, now you have the option to participate in the 401k."
Everybody
You
in
need
studio
to-
is smirking and chuckling. Yes.
You need to write on your calendar, today's the day. It's 90 days. Get in on day one. Don't wait for them to come to you. You go to them.
And the general rule of thumb out there is try to contribute 15% of your income into your retirement. And I'll tell you guys, if you start at age 19 or 20 and you contribute X dollars for just 10 years and then stop contributing, and then
Yep.
10 years later someone else starts contributing the same amount of money, but they do it for 40 years, you're still going to have more in your retirement account than they will. And that's what, Marcia, you were talking about, compound interest.
Yeah, the snowball, it gets bigger and bigger. Yep.
And you're going to want to, you actually look at it and crunch the numbers. You're just going to look at the page and go, what sorcery is this?
Yeah, it's pretty deep. It's really kind of good. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful option. If you get it, take it. Take advantage of it if you can, and take full advantage of it. Put in as much as you can.
Yep.
And maybe you can't start out initially in a new job putting in the max. That may not be realistic for you. Okay.
Do what you
But
can.
put in something.
Yeah.
Yeah, put in something. Put in a little, and then as you get a raise, then say, "Okay, now I'll up it a little bit," and keep moving it on up. The goal is to be able to max it out.
And before we take our break, we got one more question here, which I want to let you start out, Marcia, and Scott, you can finish. Does having cash sitting around and not in a bank, I guess we call that mattress money, make the value of money depreciate?
Well, I would say it doesn't depreciate, but it certainly doesn't gain anything. It's sitting in a drawer, and you're not getting anything for it,
Yep.
and certainly making you more vulnerable to somebody else getting a hold of it that shouldn't have. Whereas if you put it into a financial institution, it's secured, it's insured, and you can readily get to it anytime you want to. So I'm not a big advocate of keeping cash.
Yeah, me neither, Marcia. I think with the way inflation has been, actually, keeping cash in a mattress or safe at home, you actually might be losing some money.
Yeah, because your money's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every dollar should have a job, which means every dollar should be making you more money. And even if that means that dollar goes into your gas tank to get you to work, that dollar's still working to make you more money.
I was just going to ask about that because I was saying, what about the inflation? I mean, if it's just sitting there and the value of the dollar drops, then that money wouldn't it is depreciating then.
That's a
For
fair
sure.
statement. Yeah. All right, folks, here's the deal. We're going to take about a 3 to 5 minute break. Hang on with us. When we get back, we're going to start talking about some credit and getting loans and debt and kind of how that works. We got a question coming up that was put in by another anonymous about saving up for a house purchase. So we'll cover that after the break. Give us about, like I said, 3 to 5 minutes. Don't go nowhere. Mr. Producer, where's my out music? Come on. You're slacking, dude. There we go. Thank you. See you guys in just a couple minutes. This is a great song. Keep it up, keep it up. I want to hear more. There you go. All right. Hey guys, thanks for hanging around. We're really glad you did. Again, text in line is 440-940-6615. And if you or you know of anyone who wants to sponsor, lakeeffectradio.org/sponsorships. Right? It's emphasized the S. It's plural. You can go on there, find the different sponsorship levels, and the price they give you there is for the entire semester. So pretty darn good value. Check it out. So, all right, guys. Marcia, Scott, thanks for hanging around. Appreciate you both being here. Let's start moving into some sort of discussion on credit. Scott, what different credit is available?
Well, I mean, there's typically like 5 types of loans out there. You got your mortgage, where you're going to purchase your house that you're going to live in. You have your home equity loans or lines of credit. You got a credit card, you got a personal loan, and you got a vehicle loan. So those are the 5 main types of credit.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds kind of normalish. And we were talking earlier about the 3 C's of retail borrowing, which is credit. What we're talking about now.
Yeah.
What are those C's? What are those C's?
Oh, well, so you have collateral. So what's your collateral? If you're buying a car, obviously the car is collateral. Have a mortgage, your house is collateral.
So collateral is what they take from you if you do not pay the loan.
Correct. And it also, if you have an unsecured loan or a credit card that doesn't have any collateral, that's why your rates are typically higher, because there's no collateral.
Right.
So nothing that's going to keep you, like if you stop paying, we can't come and take your credit. We can't come and take your car because it's not a car loan. So then we have the capacity. So that's basically your income that you bring in versus the debt that you have out there. So like a debt to income ratio.
Okay.
For example, real quick, if you have $4,000 of gross income a month and you have $1,000 of debt, you have a 25% debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So banks are looking for, I know at Dollar Bank, we're looking for, if it's a secured loan, 45% debt to income ratio. If it's unsecured, it's 43% or 42%.
Okay, and unsecured is we don't have collateral.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And Marcia, we were talking earlier too about some specific things for students, such as a secured credit card, which is, well, you can explain that, Marcia.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, and as soon as we talk about the different types of credit here, if you could, Marcia, I want you to go into the concept of building credit, and then I'm going to flip it over to Scott to kind of add to that conversation, or if he's got something good to butt in with, I don't care. Let him butt in. He's a nice guy. So,
Okay, let me start with student credit cards. How is that different from a standard credit card? Well, at our credit union, we provide student credit cards because students typically don't have a credit history. And so our credit card does not require a deposit. Now, there are some financial institutions that will give a student credit card, but they require a deposit. We do not.
So basically, that deposit acts as collateral on that credit card.
Yes.
Okay.
It's another term for a secured credit card, where you give the financial institution funds, and then you have a credit card that is up to the limit of the funds that you have provided. For an example, you come in and you say, here's $500. I want a credit card. They say, okay, you have no credit history. We'll take that $500. We'll put it in a secured credit card. That means you can charge up to $500 on that card, but you're going to have to make monthly payments in order to establish a credit history. So that's how you can get a credit history going. And secured cards usually don't require that you adhere to specific guidelines as you could with other credit cards. Of course, if you're late in paying, you're going to pay interest. That's always the case. So I would advocate that a student get a student credit card unless you want a card for a specific purpose. Say, for an example, there are cards that will give you mileage for flights or travel or hotels. So if you have an interest in building up those points, then you may choose that credit card. But also be aware, what kind of interest are they going to charge you on that card if you're late? My advice about a credit card, it can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy. And it's your best friend when you use it to your advantage. That is, you don't pay fees, and you're going to pay it in full and on time, and there'll be no interest that'll accrue. Your worst enemy is when you don't pay it in full and on time, and now you're in debt.
So
And the
Scott,
debt continues to grow.
Scott and I were talking about a little different strategy earlier that he has used to help build credit using credit cards.
Well, I think Marcia did touch that on in the beginning, where you know you go and spend $50 on gas, and then someone who is just out of college, has very limited or no credit history, who's got that student card or a credit card, then you make 3 monthly payments and pay that off. And why is it that you ask? It's because now it shows the ability to make the minimum monthly payments. And as soon as they start, as their credit portfolio increases, they get a car, they get another credit card, they might get a mortgage. Then the game changes a little bit. Where, okay, now you pay that credit card off every month, so you don't have that interest accruing on there.
So at first, what I'm hearing you say is, and Marcia, tell me what you're thinking of this too. I'm going to go and my $500 secured card, I'm going to spend in January $80 for gas. I'm going to take that card. I'm going to put that card away. I'm not going to touch it again until I've made the minimum payments for 2 or 3 months, and then I pay it all off. And then I pull it out again and use it, and that's what's going to help build my credit better. And then once I am established with that, then pay it off every month.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I'm hearing. Marcia?
Yes, I had an example with one of my own children who went away to college, and we provided a credit card for emergency use only. Well, I want you to know that he thought emergency use was going on a weekend trip,
Beer.
going skiing. Yes, and pizza and beer. Oh, all the fun things.
Gotta have the pizza, Marcia.
However, yeah, he's got to eat, right? Of course, that was his excuse too. However, the bill was going to his dorm address. We were not aware of what was going on until my husband got a phone call, and they said, that credit card hasn't been paid. He said, well, it hasn't been used. They said, oh, that's not the case. It has been used. So we had to have a very serious conversation with that child. And the end result was that my husband had him take that plastic card and put it in a plastic Ziploc bag, fill it with water, seal it up, and put it in the freezer.
Scott's over here chuckling here.
He virtually froze the card.
And you can't nuke it because you'll melt the card.
But that was I thought that was genius on my husband's part. That was a visual image. This card is frozen until it's paid off and you can use it responsibly. You can't have it.
And there is no emergency that can't wait for 3 hours for that ice to thaw.
That's exactly right.
No, exactly.
Yeah. What do you have, Mr. Producer? Hold on. Go ahead, Marcia.
He tried to hit it and bang the ice off of it, but it destroyed the magnetic tape on the back. So essentially, he ruined the card.
Yep. What'd you have, Mr. Producer?
I was just going to ask. So, it's mainly a question about the credit that you were saying. How you show the credit card company that you can make the payments. Is it kind of similar, especially for younger kids? How a lot of high school isn't necessarily you learning a lot, but just showing that you can do, showing like a company that you can do the bare minimum of doing the assignments on incremental basis.
He
And
knew the assignment.
and then exactly, and then eventually you get to a point where they can trust you to make bigger payments.
Well, I don't think you're making those minimum payments every month for the credit card company as much as you are to the credit bureaus reporting it. So that when the bank, when you apply for a loan down the road and the bank pulls your credit, then they can see that. They'll go back and see.
They can trust you.
Yeah, they'll see. Okay, Dan pulled out, $500 and paid it off within 5 months, and then he's got a zero balance on there. So he has the ability to make those minimum payments.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of interrupt the flow.
other-
Oh, go ahead, Marcia. Then I'm going to interrupt the flow after this, but keep going, Marcia.
Okay, the other option might be to be an authorized user on a credit card. That would mean, like with our son, we had a credit card and we authorized him to be a user on that card so that he would have a credit history of our payments. But when you are an authorized user, you're only getting that credit history while you're on the card. So as soon as he graduated from college and we took him off, he no longer had that credit history. But that is an option as a short-term gap if there's a situation where you'd want the child to be an authorized user and get credit history built and then get their own card and start to build their own credit as well.
Well, I'm going to throw in here a monkey wrench too. A couple of friends of mine needed to get new phones, so they go to the big box store, and the wife held all the credit card accounts. They were just in her name. She was managing the daily bills, so they were in her name, and he was the authorized user. So he thought, well, she's got to go run errands. I will get the cards. I'll get the Best Buy card in my name, and we can get the discounts because we got a credit card, and we got the money. We're gonna pay it off like we're gonna walk right to the service desk in 2 weeks and pay it off. He could not get a Best Buy card in the amount to cover the bill, and he could not get the card that did not have the monthly fee attached to it because he was only an authorized user, even though his credit score was over 800. So interesting, so you're going to want to get your own credit to be able to do some of these things too. But, being an authorized user helps get the score up, but there's still little tweaks you have to have unless your name is primary, I've found. So let me interrupt the flow, and I'm going to give my advice here. A young lady called in, and even though you listed your name, my dear, I'm not going to say it, okay? My mother has been using my credit since I was born, and now my credit is in the gutter. Is this fixable via regular means? I don't know what you are thinking about regular means, but one thing you can do is you can call all the credit bureaus and freeze all your credit. You can call them and say everything is frozen. That way, if someone tries to get an account or tries to use your credit, it's locked, it's frozen. They will contact you, whoever's they're trying to borrow money from, they will contact you to find out if you're actually doing that or if someone else is doing it. This is identity theft, is what this is. And if there is any possible way you can get an attorney, you may want to make a police report, but this is truly identity theft. Freeze your credit. That way, if you need to go for a credit card or a car loan, all the credit bureaus are going to say, hey, this is frozen. Then you can either unfreeze it with the credit bureaus or, you can unfreeze it with the credit bureaus for that day or two and then refreeze it again. So no one can use your credit. But again, identity theft. Scott, any thoughts? Or Marcia, either of you? It's a sad situation too. That really sucks.
Yes, Scott. I don't know if you have an answer. I have not. I don't have an answer. I've not had that situation, and I'm not really well versed on how to handle it. I think it's a good idea to freeze the credit, of course. But beyond that, I maybe I'd go into my financial institution and explain to them what happened and ask them what they can do to assist.
Well, I don't know how somebody can use somebody's credit from since they were born. Maybe when
When they got the
turned
Social
18,
Security number, they get a Social Security number.
so
They
what
can
kind
use
of birthday
that.
do they put on there?
I don't know. Somebody's lying.
Yeah.
Well, if you,
That's rough.
especially if you use well, some people. I've seen this case before, where this one guy, he was born in 1994, and he had a credit card, or not a credit card company, but these people collecting debts. They said you were evicted in 2001, and he says, what do you mean? I wasn't evicted. His mother was using the card, or was using a card with his Social Security, from ever since he was a child, and essentially crashed his credit. So when he tried to buy a house, he tried to check it, and they said, you've been denied for a loan for this house because you were evicted all these times.
I'm assuming, young lady, that I would assume at this point you don't have a terribly cordial relationship with your mother, and that's just an assumption. But I just did a quick Google search, and identitytheft.gov, and right on the home page on my phone, report identity theft and get a recovery plan. So that's probably where I would start to get that going. And I am certain that they will tell you in there, you need to call the three big reporting bureaus. There's Experian, there's TransUnion, and who's the other one?
Equifax.
Equifax, thank you. And you can Google those. I'm going to say that again so you can write them down. Experian, EXPERIAN.
A.N.
TransUnion, TransUnion. And Equifax, EQUIFAX. So get in there and just do a search once you get on each website. How do I freeze my credit? They will tell you how to do it. But go to that identitytheft.gov. That's where you're going to get your best plan to recover. And I'm sorry that you got stuck in that, my dear.
Yeah.
So
And I would add, if the mother has access to a credit card,
tear them up.
that credit card should be closed
Yep.
Yeah,
and a new one opened.
yeah, call the
And I would
call the
definitely
companies.
make my financial institution aware of what's going on.
Close everything.
Yeah, you can close
Yeah.
everything out. You can call if you have a credit card that she's using, you can call your credit card company, and I'm assuming it's the ones you know about. You can call your credit card company and just say, all our cards were stolen, and you could even tell them you think you're a victim of identity theft, and there may be some recompense you can get from that. They may be able to reimburse you for some of that. But talk to them and find out. It's going to be a pain in the ass.
Well, you're only liable for the first $50 of a charge that's made on a credit card that was not your purchase.
Correct. So you should be able to get hopefully something back. But they'll do an investigation. It's going to be a pain in the ass, but it is so worth it. And you could also contact and put a note in your credit files. When you freeze it, you can put a note in your credit files that you were a victim of identity theft. So some lenders may take that into consideration when they're talking about a loan for you. So let's roll that way, okay, with it, my dear? I wish you all the best of luck. Let's get back to the whole credit card thing. Scott, what questions do I want to ask before getting a credit card?
Well, you want to definitely dive into what kind of rate that they have, along with if there's any kind of rewards or perks such as cash back or miles. Those are probably the two. And also probably I would ask about if that credit card can be linked to my checking account for overdraft protection.
You look like you were buffering for a second.
is another feature that some banks can offer as well. And then grace period would be the final thing I would discuss. And what's the grace period? Grace period is the time that you charge your card, and if you pay it off within the grace period, then there's no interest.
Marcia, what do you got?
Well, I'd also want to know what your credit limit was. Make sure you understand what that is.
That's important.
And more importantly, do you have the income so that you can pay back the amount you charge on the card?
I like that. That's real important. You got to watch, and you know, this leads me to another concept. Budgeting. I've talked about it before. I'm not Edward. I'm Steven. Although you do know my dad, Edward. That's funny. Budgeting.
He's got a curriculum for it, folks.
Yeah, I do. For those of you,
Yeah.
for those of you interested in learning more about all this, and I'm going to plug myself here. I am a financial coach, and you could reach me at steve@thelifeskillscurriculum.com. That's Steve at thelifeskillscurriculum.com. I'd like you to reach out with any number of things there. Put radio in the comments or in the subject line if you've got a topic here that you want to hear. But if you've got some more questions about this sort of stuff, money stuff, reach out to me. Let me let me give you a little bit of a little hand there. Happy to help. But budgeting. How important is a budget, Marcia?
How important is it that you have good health, Stephen?
Well, I am 57.
They go hand in hand. You cannot manage money if you don't have, quote unquote, a budget. So what is a budget? A budget is basically a plan to utilize your income the way you want to use it. Now, we could both make the same amount of money, and our budgets might look very different. Maybe you want to be an airplane pilot, and you want to take lessons to be an airplane pilot. So you're going to put that in your budget. I might not choose to do that. I might choose to have a vacation. So I'm going to put that in my budget. Every budget is unique to every person, but it's got to cover first your needs. You have to meet your needs first. And then anything else that's left, you can allocate to your wants, whatever they may be.
And that's what I do.
You can't live without a budget.
And that's
You
what I
just
do
can't.
when I do financial coaching. My first session with somebody is setting up an initial budget. And I'm going to tell you, everybody, yes, I just ate the mic on that one. Listen, you're going to suck at budgeting for at least 3 to 4 months. You're not going to be good at it, which is where a coach like myself comes in to help talk you through it. And I promise you, as we go through budgeting, that's where we find the gaps in your understanding of how money works. That's where we find the gaps in your understanding of needs versus wants. That's where we find the gaps in the understanding of how credit and debt works. So, I had a couple that I had them look at their insurances. They saved my entire rate with the annual amount they saved on their auto insurance and homeowners insurance. Yeah. So, listen, guys, you've got to have a budget. It's not a 4-letter word. It is 6 letters, but it's not a 4-letter word. Scott, what tips you got on budgeting?
Well, carry only small amounts of cash in your wallet to control your spending.
It's kind of like the envelope system.
Yeah. Put away your credit cards. They're not free money if you don't use them right.
Yeah.
If you use them right, you can leverage it to your advantage, but that's where people get in trouble.
Most of my clients didn't know how to handle credit, so yeah.
Buy only what you need. Don't buy things just because they're on sale. I hope my wife is listening to this. Cut down on variable expenses such as clothing and entertainment. And then take your lunch to work or school instead of eating out. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you go eat out, it's expensive.
Man, that is the best advice.
You're not
spend so much money on
you're not
takeout,
spending
I'm
less
telling
than 10 to 15 bucks on lunch. And if you spend that, say you spend just 10 bucks a day on lunch, it's 50 bucks. It's 50 bucks a week.
I had a client that was making $2,000 a month. I mean, she was going to be a client and then decided she didn't want to be my client because she didn't like what I had to say, but she was made $2,000 a month net and spending $1,200 a month on restaurants and takeout.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's not that's
Easy to
crazy.
do.
It's insane.
It's easy to do.
It is easy to do. Trust me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. So, I hope we've kind of beat home the importance of a budget. But let's go back to the lending stuff. So, Scott, we talked about credit, the cards. We talked about mortgages, car loans. What types of loans are there, Scott?
Again, there's a loan for a mortgage, and then you have your home equity.
And the mortgage is keeping to buy the house.
Yeah.
Is how to buy your house, right?
It would be to buy your house that you're going to live in. There's a home equity loan or line of credit.
So what is that?
So it would leverage the equity in your house. For example, if you have a house that is worth $100,000 and you have a small mortgage balance of 20 grand, banks will lend you up to 80% of the appraised value. Say it comes back at 100,000. They'll lend you up to 80 grand off that, less your mortgage balance. So you have $60,000 for improvements or debt consolidation purposes.
And there's a couple different types of those. There's some that they give you all the money up front, then you have to pay it back. And there are some that you treat almost like a credit card where you take out money just as you need it, right?
Right. The home equity loan is where they give you the money up front. That's probably, if you know exactly what you're going to do, pay off debt, or if you're going to put an addition onto your house, the loan's the best way to go. The home equity line of credit's great because it gives you some flexibility. It's an interest-only product, and it gives you some flexibility, but you want to treat it like a credit card where you want to pay it back as quickly as possible.
Yep. And I do want to speak out on this. If you're tapping especially into your home's equity, or if you're getting a loan just to consolidate a bunch of credit cards together, the problem I found as a financial coach is while that addresses the immediate need, it doesn't address the underlying behavior, the practices, the understanding of money. So you've got to change the behavior if you're going to consolidate debt. Now, I understand sometimes that happens with divorces and split ups and all that stuff, and there are extenuating circumstances, but get some help if you're going to use one of these loans to consolidate a bunch of debt into one.
Right. I mean, I think it comes down to, understanding the needs versus wants. I think
Right.
we touched on that earlier. So, what do you want? What do you need?
Yeah. Marsha, how do they get a loan at the credit union? How do I want to get a car loan, Marsha? How do I do that?
You better smile nicely when you come in.
I always smile.
He's not smiling right now.
I'm not right now, no.
Now he
I'm
is.
chuckling, though.
That's the advantage of having a relationship rather than using an online banking. You would need to be able to substantiate that you're worthy of the loan. And let's use a car loan as an example. I would suggest anyone considering a car loan get pre-approved from their financial institution before you shop or a vehicle. What I have been aware of is that people go to look for a car primarily on a weekend, and the salesmen are out on the lot, and they try to push people into more car than they can afford. And then they tell them, well, we'll take care of that. We'll get the financing for you. Don't worry. We can get you that amount of money. But they fail to let you know what the ramifications are for that amount of money. So go to your financial institution, talk to them first, know what you're able to afford and what your commitments will be, and then go look for a car and stay within those guidelines. Do you have anything that you can add? Scott?
Well,
I know you're experienced.
I'm going to top in the way to do that is when you go to your financial institution, simply go to one of the bankers and say, I'm interested in getting pre-qualified for a car loan. That's all you got to do. They take it from there.
Yes, I agree with everything that Marcia said. And to add on, when you go to a dealership, they're all about, hey, how much monthly payment can you afford? And then all of a sudden, it takes it from a 60 or 72 month loan, and they'll push it out to 84 months, which means a heck of a lot more interest you're paying. You're paying a lot of money for what you're getting.
And statistically speaking, you're going to get rid of that car before you pay it off, which means you're going to take the amount there, roll it into your next car loan, and it's just going to snowball the wrong way.
Yep.
That's horrible. What else do they need to do for you? Like what requirements, Scott, what will I have to bring to you to get approved for a loan, whether it's even a credit card or a school loan? Well, school loans I don't like, but we'll talk about that in another show. A car loan or a line of credit, secured or unsecured. What documents, what stuff do you need from me?
Typically, it's a couple years of personal tax returns, and then your last couple months of paycheck stubs, so they can verify that you're currently employed and what you're making.
Yeah, and you're going to check my credit too.
We're going to run your credit as well.
What about you, Marcia? What about the credit union you work at?
Well, we do everything off of the Social Security number. So when you come in, you give us your Social Security number, which, of course, we have on file, but we verify it. And then we run your credit report, and we tell you what we will approve you for. And if you're not happy with that, in the credit union, we don't extend beyond that. We will say that is the limit that we are comfortable lending you. And then you can go somewhere else. And unfortunately, what they do is they go to these title places and they charge them like 37% interest.
Good
It's
Lord.
obscene. It is obscene. In fact, I recently had a situation where a member had gone to a title place to get a loan, and the loan was at 37%. She came in, and I said, oh, my goodness, this is obscene. We can certainly give you a loan at a much lower rate, and you'll be able to pay it off faster. So I said, I will go with you when you go to pay off this title loan, because I knew that they wouldn't want her to pay it off.
Of course not. How much money are they making off that, for crying out loud?
37% interest.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
I went with her. I actually drove and went with her. They didn't know who I was. And I was astounded at the hardcore press they put on her to try and retain that account. I mean, they did everything but send in the Mounties
Wow.
to try. And yeah. So be aware of what you're doing. It's your money. You get to choose where you want your loan and what rate you want to pay.
Economic democracy.
So make sure that you're not pressured.
Excellent. And don't be afraid to say no.
No, you're right.
So,
But some places they're trained so they know what to say to you in response to your no.
yep.
I got a lot of friends that okay, my son graduated. They're going to they're what do you call that when they're going to be an electrician? They're in the
Trades.
Trades.
Yeah,
school.
Trades,
they're in
yeah.
the program where they're like learning how to be an electrician. I'm like, all right, now I'm starting to make money. I'm gonna get me a new truck. So
Oh,
my
yeah.
friends ask me, hey, Tyler wants to get a new truck, and if you've seen trucks lately, they're 60, 70 grand.
Dude, you have no idea
Oh.
how many clients I've coached, and my very first words are sell the truck.
And the trucks are great. Don't get me
The
wrong.
features are amazing. on
But
those things.
if you're an 18, 19-year-old and your car payments, $950 a month, That's a tough pill to swallow.
There's
Yeah.
too many high school football players that I know who all have brand new trucks and they're making the payments. I go, how can you afford anything else?
So we're going to take a break here in another 5 minutes and come back. Scott has to take off. He is on a time constraint, but I got one more question I want to ask before you have to bug out, brother. Hey guys, I'm 22 and I make $2,380 a month working at a local body shop. I'm not certain if that is net or gross, as that's before or after taxes. I'm working full time. What would be the highest amount a month of rent you recommend for me, as I am looking to move out soon? I have around $10,000 saved up. Good for you. I'm not looking to buy a house. So basically, you've got your 10 grand, which is probably your emergency fund, I would say, and you're looking to move out, I'm guessing, your folks' house or wherever you're living right now and get your own place, and you're looking to rent. The conventional wisdom that I've always come across, Scott, is like 30%, give or take, of your income.
First and foremost, I would ask if you have a friend that you get along with that could split the
And
rent with
today's
you.
rent, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you're going to be hard pressed to find anything less than $1,000 out there.
Yeah, because
You
that
know.
30% on that amount came to $715.
Yeah, and then if you're looking to down the road apply for a car loan, you need to upgrade your car. You're going to put what your rent is on that application, and if we're looking at 45% debt to income ratio, and right off the rip you're at 35%, it could be a deal killer for you.
And because that rent counts as debt. By the way, Mr. Producer's looking for a roommate, so just so you know. Marcia, what do you got?
I agree with Scott. He's right on target there. A roommate is a great solution. Living with mom and dad, following their rules, is another good solution.
You know,
Option number one, but
Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it.
yeah, my daughter is going to school here at Lakeland, and she's headed towards a psychology degree, and she is chomping at the bit and desperate just to get on her own, and I totally understand that. I understand wanting that freedom, because there's rules at my house we all have to follow, including me. I made the rules, I follow the rules. But if your folks aren't charging you that much rent or any rent at all, when we charge her a little bit of rent when she's not in school. When she's in school, she gets no rent. But you got to do the dishes. You got to pick up the dog crap. You got to help with the garbage. I need by the way, can you go grab this for me? Or, can you run to the store for milk?
Which you'd have to do anyway if you were at your own house.
Well, yeah, and if you're living
point.
with somebody else, it's kind of a communal thing.
yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
These are
she's come to the wisdom of, while she's chomping at the bit and she's desperate to do it, she realizes that right now, until she's out of school, she's in the best place. At least that's what she told me last month. I don't know how she feels this month. Becca, if you're listening.
It changes by the day. The other option, Stephen, is to get a weekend job, get a second job, and allocate that additional money. If you want a better place to live or a more expensive place, allocate that additional income toward that goal.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I don't know how old you are, but $2,300 a month is incredible. You keep going, keep moving it up, get extra work, you're going to be fine. Before we take our break, Scott, I want to give you a chance to talk about Dollar Bank and what you do and who they are, so that you can, here's your plug, brother.
All right, let's go, Scott.
Well, hey, first of all, thanks, Steve, and thanks, Lake Effect, for having me on here. I appreciate it. I've had the pleasure of working for Dollar Bank. I always say it's the best kept secret because we are small but mighty, but we were founded in 1855 in Pittsburgh, PA. Our presence is in Northeast Ohio, Western PA. We have a presence also in Virginia Beach and a small little sliver in Maryland. We're not publicly traded, which we discussed before. So we're not publicly traded, which we discussed before. We're a mutual bank, so we're owned by our depositors. Being mutual allows us to focus on the goals of our customers and provide the solutions that help get them there where they need to be. I'm fortunate to work in our business banking department. I get to work with owner-operated businesses in Lake and surrounding counties, and I get to help them with their financing and deposit needs to help them grow their business and increase their bottom line. So I'm a fortunate individual. I love what I do. I love working with my customers, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, and the way you and I met was you were helping me with a little business venture, which
That's
is
correct.
still working
Yeah.
well. What is Dollar Bank? Dollar Bank does a lot of work with just retail, with just the regular Joe Schmo who's not coming in for business as well. So
Correct.
our listeners can certainly walk into a Dollar Bank branch and say, I want to open an account here, darn it, because of Scott.
Well, my main office is in Menor, and I can personally speak on behalf of the staff there and all the branches that I cover that we got some quality people. They have really in-depth training programs for the people coming in. So when they come out of training, they're ready to help you out.
Fantastic. Thanks for being on the program, Scott. You guys all hang on for about,
Scott.
Marcia, pleasure meeting you, and appreciate the dialogue on this.
and we're going to be back in about
You too.
4 or 5 minutes. Marcia, you can hold on, right?
I sure can.
Fantastic. See y'all in a bit. Here's a little Billy Joel for you.
If that's what it's all about, Mama, if that's moving up, then I'm moving out. I'm moving out. Sergeant O'Leary is walking the beats. Night he becomes a bartender. He works at Mr. Cacciatore's down on Sullivan Street, across from the medical center. And he's trading in his Chevy for a Cadillac. You ought to know by now. If he can't drive with a broken back, at least he can polish the fenders. And it seems such a waste of time. If that's what it's all about, Mama, if that's moving up, then I'm moving out. I'm moving out. Oh, you should never argue with a crazy man. You ought to know by now. You can pay Uncle Sam with the overtime. Is that all you get for your money? And if that's what you have in mind, yeah, if that's what you're all about, good luck moving up, 'cause I'm moving out. I'm moving out.
Dance. Hey, I was dancing in my seat here. Okay. I guess Mr. Producer decided we've had enough music. So, anyway, the text in line is 440. Thanks. Well, let me start again. Steve, trying to talk. Take two. Welcome back to Reality Slap. I'm Steve Leskovic, your host. Our text in line is 440-940-6615. And if you want to sponsor or know anyone who does, lakeeffectradio.org/sponsorships. First guest has bugged out. He had a prior commitment, but we're still here with Marcia. Thank you very much, Marcia. Appreciate you hanging on.
I want to appreciate you for doing this show. I think that's great information you're sharing, and I'm sure it will help people learn to manage their money, or at least begin the process of thinking about managing their money.
Thank you so much. So let's, we've covered a lot of the banking stuff, but since you're kind of in the industry, and I know you do a lot of community education on this, let me ask you this. Where's a good place, aside from this show, and maybe reaching out to me for financial coaching? Yeah. Where's some other good places that students can learn about money?
Well, there are podcasts, there are blogs, there's even YouTube. And they're all different, and they fill a different need. But I would encourage anyone, instead of taking it as one huge big block, break it down and focus on one topic at a time. So maybe you take a month and learn about budgeting as much as you can learn about it. And then the next month, maybe you want to learn about student loans. Either you're a current student or you're going to be a student. You need to understand the ramifications of student loans, and there are a lot of student loan ramifications.
I don't like those, but we could talk about that a little bit.
I know, but realistically,
yeah,
how many kids can go to school without a loan? It's just not realistic. But they need to know what they're getting into, and there are other options that they can explore. I think that's one of the things about learning. You take the topic and you learn as much as you can about it, and before you go on to the next topic, so that you're well versed. And it builds, that way you can build your knowledge in increments.
I like that.
And then, of course, we've got electronics at your fingertips.
Oh, the world is at our fingertips now, too, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Everything.
Yeah, we got everything.
Speaking about that,
yes,
Stephen,
speak away.
What's at our fingertips? Speaking about your fingertips, when people are out shopping, they can do comparison shopping right on their phone. And they can determine whether it's a good price or whether they can go somewhere else to find it. There are advantages to using technology so that you can maximize your dollar and your return.
It sounds like a great way to save money. I'm sure you've got some other thoughts on that, too.
Well, I recently, we have, here in Columbia, South Carolina, we have a flea market, and it is massive. It is, I think, 70 acres, and there are so many vendors there, you can't even see all of them. But I did learn that they will all negotiate on price.
Oh.
So you need to learn to ask if that's a fixed price. Are you willing to take less? Will you negotiate with me? And you'd be surprised at the number of people that will say yes.
Well, that's because they're selling their own wares or products. They're not selling for a boss or anything. It's not like walking into a big box store. If I'm selling a bunch of stuff, it's like going to a garage sale. If I see something I want for a piece of art, a wall hanging that's for sale for $20, I look at the garage sale person, I say, will you take 10? And they almost always say yes at a garage sale.
Right. And they don't have any shipping costs. so they're in a position to negotiate. I think it's always worth trying. They can say no.
Yeah.
You haven't lost anything.
And if you remember, their goal going to places like that is to come home with a lot less than they got there with.
Right, exactly.
They don't want to pack all that garbage up and take it back home. No, yes, that's a great
No.
idea. I hadn't thought about that. So, where are some, and I know you know about some discounts that are specific to students. Like I know Google's got
yes.
something, but there's some travel but what do you know about?
There are lots of options for students because merchants want to attract students. You're their future. The students are their future. So if they can get them in young, they've got them for life.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to ask.
And there's also a brand
especially
loyalty. There's also brand loyalty them tapping
Oh,
into.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of that, like Apple. Apple offers college students discounts on their iPads and accessories, so you have to ask, but it's there. Then I am aware that AT&T has a really good deal on phone plans
Okay.
and Wi-Fi. They offer a student plan that's unique to AT&T, and it's only $10 a month per line.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's a deal. So if you are, now you have to make sure that you can get the service you want in their area.
It might have
And that
some
you can
limited
get
data. I wonder if it's
their
got limited
towers
data or
and stuff,
something.
yeah.
But hey, it's
Ask
worth
the
looking
right
into.
question.
If they got internet, I might need that very, very, very soon.
Why is your dad
Yeah.
taking your phone away? Never
No.
mind.
Internet. Internet is like a router and stuff.
Oh,
They also have Spotify
Yeah.
has a lot of student deals too. That's what I use right now, the Spotify Student.
Oh, good.
that's a good one.
I'm not aware of that. That's good too.
Yeah, it's $5 or it's like $3 a month rather than 10, but you have to provide your ID for your school and the college. It works perfectly well. You get premium for $3 rather than 10.
Wow. Well, when I was presenting to the International Business School, one of the students told me that Microsoft offers Microsoft Teams
Okay.
for I think he said 50% off.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So you got to ask. Lots of places, dining places, have student savings. They'll offer either a special or they'll offer a discount, or even for delivery to students, their charges for meal delivery are not as high. So you need to ask. Pizza places notoriously give discounts to students
And we've got
for delivery.
we've got quite a few colleges here. We've got Lake Erie College, we've got Cleveland State University, we've got Lakeland Community College, there's Cuyahoga Community College. So I'd be surprised if there isn't more deals out there than not.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you have so many colleges, do you have a Best Buy near there?
Absolutely.
They have a deal for students if they sign up for they sign up for a Best Buy account.
Oh, that's
Now,
their
you
My
don't
Best
have to
Buy
commit-
rewards account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you get student deals for students.
That's cool.
So there are lots of options. Just ask everywhere you go and see if you can, find yourself a little deal. I know United Airlines also has a 5% discount for college students that are on a flight of United Airlines.
Cool.
I think you have to sign up for their app. You have to sign up on their app, but there's no charge for that, and so you get the discount. Every little penny counts.
Every
Take
penny.
what you can get.
Every penny
Yeah.
counts. It does. And, this sounds like, what I'm thinking of as you're talking, it sounds like a military discount, military first responder discount. And, first of all, if you are serving in either of those capacities, God love you. Thank you for doing that. and get that discount. You've earned it, but you have to ask for it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to wave a flag and tell you we're giving something away.
Right, right.
They want you to find them. So be sure to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Excellent, excellent. We're coming up to the closing out the show here in a few minutes. So I think before we do that, I want to ask you, what are one or two pieces of advice, the most important things that the listeners should take away from this, or that you would offer that we haven't touched on? What do they need to know most importantly?
I think most importantly is for people to have understanding of the terms that are used in banking and what they mean. So, for an example, people know checking accounts, they know savings accounts, and for the most part, they know a CD is a certificate of deposit, or they know about a money market. In some cases, not always. But those are the basic terms. They need to know what they mean and how they can utilize that information to their own benefit. Now, in addition to that, I think everybody should have an understanding of what's termed investments. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds.
And we
You can
covered
go on
and we covered that on last week's show. So yeah, they got a
Yeah.
good education on that last week.
Yeah, and I think it's important, even if they're not players in the market, they need to know what's out there, how it works, and the terms. And the other thing, don't be embarrassed or intimidated. When we were talking in the beginning of the show about your comfort zone and going into your financial institution, you should be comfortable enough to go in and ask any question. There is no dumb question, none.
Correct.
And you should be comfortable enough to be able to go in there and ask any question that you might have. And don't hesitate to ask.
Well, these folks, folks in the institutions are excited when somebody, especially someone young or new to the whole banking thing, asks. They love talking to you.
Absolutely. And if your financial institution offers educational programs, whether it be online or in person, at my credit union, we do both. We make information available to our members. Take advantage of it. Listen to what they have to say. Learn, ask questions. Because after all, it's your own money.
Yep.
But we didn't touch at all, and I think this is something we need to at least touch on,
Okay.
is cybersecurity.
I wouldn't have thought that to bring that up, except we did have that young lady. But you know what? I think that's a very, very good thought to kind of finish off the show. Let's hear it.
Well, it's rampant, and it's getting to be an increasing problem for financial institutions as well as consumers. What is happening is people are posing to be representatives of financial institutions. Now, they cannot get your account number. They cannot get your financial information. That is very well protected by your financial institution. But they get other information from Google, enough so that they can make a phone call to you and very reasonably sound like your financial institution. And when you get a call like that, they often can copy the area code and the first 3 digits of the number of your financial institution. So you look at your phone and you think, yeah, that's the credit union calling me. It isn't the credit union calling me. It is someone posing as they are a member of the credit union. So if you get a call that asks you, oh, we want to verify your account. We had a little confusion here at this end, and we're trying to get it all straightened out. What are the last 4 digits of your account number? They can get the other numbers online because the routing numbers are publicly put online. So once they get those last 4 digits of your number, it's have at it.
It's
They'll
over.
Open the gate. Yep. So what you should say is, well, thank you for calling. I appreciate that you're interested in taking care of me. I am busy right at the moment. I will call you back in about an hour. And they're going to say, oh, well, I've got to go to lunch. One of them said, oh, I've got a doctor's appointment, so I'd rather take care of this before I go so I won't be worried when I'm at my doctor. And I said, well, that's all right. Don't you worry. I'll take the burden from you and I'll worry. So I will call back in an hour. Sure enough, when I called my own bank using my phone number, they had no record of that call at all. So be very aware. Also, when
Now,
you
I'm gonna
are
pause
using...
there. I want to pause you there, and I want our listeners to know. I've known Marcia, like I said, all my life. I wouldn't be that polite on the phone. She has a unique ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. So I would not be that polite. Don't feel you have to be that polite. But anyway, go ahead, Marcia.
Yeah, just in my nature. So be sure that you are protecting yourself. And when you're using a debit card, you use a PIN number that's associated with that debit card. So let's say, for an example, you are in Walmart and you push in your debit card and they process your purchase, and then you put in the last 4 digits, your PIN. Make sure that you cover with your hand the keypad so anybody that's within view can't see the numbers you're pushing. Why? Why do you say that? Because there are people who prey on Walmart and other large big box stores that go behind you and put a card in, and it's a blank card where they've designed it so it pulls the numbers that were last inputted. It doesn't give the PIN number, however, because that's unique to you. It's not imprinted on that card, and it doesn't go through the mechanical process, but they get all the information they need. Then they saw you key in your PIN number, so they've got that, and that opens the gateway for them to have at it.
So
and they drain your account in seconds.
It sounds like it's more
Now,
secure to use a PIN number than to run your debit card as a credit.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. When you use a credit card, you're only responsible for $50 if it's fraud. So you are protected. With a debit card, you do not have that protection.
See,
And
my
they are getting
understanding was if that card has a Visa, MasterCard, or whatever logo on it you are. And my experience with that, and I don't mean to contradict, maybe there's different things in different places for different institutions, but I had some folks using my debit card numbers buy some stuff from Joann Fabrics, which is a sewing type store, which I would never walk into. And
You
it's
mean
like,
you don't sew?
no, only if I have to with a button. But I called my bank, and they reimbursed the full amount actually. And they did the investigation, and they said, "Yep, you're clear. You can keep the money." Because if they had did the investigation and found out that I did buy it, then they would have sucked the money right back out of my account. But that worked. But we've got the Visa and MasterCard. Maybe it's just the fact my institution took care of it. I don't know.
I had a question real quick. sorry to cut you off, but I had a question real quick about it's a very similar thing. Credit card skimmers, where you have to look like
Yeah.
in the gas station, they'll put a fake, even in Europe, especially
fake cover.
yeah, fake cover over
Uh-huh.
it, and all it'll let you get through to the ATM to withdraw money, but it's storing that amount. I see people who work at McDonald's, they literally just work there so they can have a little black box where they scan the credit card first in the black box, then they scan it in the McDonald's. And they send that information to their friends along like a very far away, and they drain these people's bank accounts.
You're exactly right. And the draining happens instantly if it's a debit card.
And they go and they turn
I
it
mean,
into
they-
crypto a lot of the time I saw.
Yeah, and they are smart enough to know to leave like $100 in there so that you don't get that immediate alert. The other thing you can do, now I don't do this because I think it's annoying, but you can ask your financial institution or your card holder, whoever it may be, to send you a notification whenever there's a charge made on your account. But that is very annoying, let me tell you.
I'd
'cause
find
I
it so.
I use my card for everything. I don't carry cash. I use my card, so it'd be beeping me all the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't set that up. But that is an option. If you have more patience than I do, then, that's something you could do. But you need to be first and foremost aware and take precautions because it's becoming, it's an entire industry.
Oh yeah. I like watching those hackers hack the scammers on social media. They're funny. So Marcia, I want to thank you very, very much for these last 2 hours. Your insight and your wisdom is truly appreciated, and I expect our listeners got some really, really good stuff out of it. So listeners, let me tell you what, lakeeffectradio.org/sponsorship for anybody. If you want to get in touch with me, it's Steve at thelifeskillscurriculum.com. You could also check out my website for more information on life skills at lifeskillsstore.com. Hey, let's keep this radio show going. Let's keep the conversations going. We will see you not next week. Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate. We will see you potentially on the 2nd of January. I believe we're taking that off. We have not confirmed that yet. Tune in and see if we're here. But if we're not, we will be back on January, I think it's the 8th, right? Yeah. Yes, January 8th, we will be back. We have got some phenomenal shows scheduled. The one on the 8th is going to be discussing the concept of, I believe, I'm going to give you these real quick so you know what you're looking forward to. No, January 9th, I'm sorry. Interviewing and keeping a job. That's going to be on the 9th. Following show is going to be talking about seasonal depression, Christmas depression, all that sort of stuff. So you're going to want to tune in for your mental health. We got 3 really great guests on for that show. And that's the next 2 coming up. We might have a third on the 2nd. Check it out. Mr. Producer, take us out. Thanks for listening, folks.
Alrighty, folks, that's all this week for Reality Slap here on Lake Effect Radio with your host, Steven Leskovic. We appreciate everyone for tuning in, and please remember during these trying holiday seasons, remember what's most important to all: family. And that's all that really matters in the end. Family, friends, whoever you may have close to you, hold them tight during these holiday seasons as we approach Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you may celebrate. We appreciate you here on Reality Slap on Lakeland's Lake Effect Radio. We hope that to all of our listeners out there, you stay warm, stay safe, and we will see you later.
Starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and take you away. We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going